Today's head-on is one of Morgan's Raiders. The subhead-on says, the story of a mare that saw service in the late unpleasantness. It says, Maggie Lucas, a mare that went through 3 years of the hardest service of the War of the Rebellion, is 34 years old. The mane and tail of the hardy little animal are deeply streaked with gray. She has lost the sight of the left eye and is somewhat deaf, but she is as frisky and lively in the barnyard as most animals 25 years her junior. Maggie Lucas is a historical mare. She was ridden by John H. Whalen through all the daring raids of John H. Morgan, and for 3 years was ridden in the courier service, the most toilsome and dangerous branch of war service. Her owner, Mr. Whalen, paid the old mare a state visit the other day, and spent an hour amid the recollections of the past and in resuming the almost human intimacy that once existed between the intelligent animal and himself. She was found at Mr. Miller's farm, 5 miles from the city on the 18th Street Road, where she has been kept in ease and comfort for years and where she will remain until death claims her gallant spirit. At first, she did not recognize her old master, who was wrapped up in a heavy overcoat, and frisked away from him with the spirit of a colt, but with the heavy movements of age in her limbs. But when she was cornered and he called her name in her ear, she looked up quickly, and then, recognizing the well-remembered voice, laid her head along his arm and stood gentle and quiet while he patted her head and talked of the adventures they had seen together. Mr. Whalen obtained the mare in 1862. He was at that time a boy of 14 years and had been in the service a year. He was a courier and had many a long and rapid ride to make, but the gallant mare never was sick and seemed never to tire, going all day long in a lope. She was in all the skirmishes and fights in Indiana and Ohio and Kentucky, and was ridden away by her owner from Grantville, Tennessee on the day that Morgan was betrayed and killed. At the close of the war, Mr. Whalen surrendered at Mount Sterling, and wishing to keep his mare, he left her in the country, and after surrendering his arms, returned to her. He was arrested, however, at Lexington because he had not surrendered the animal, and she was confiscated. He made every effort to keep trace of her, determined to buy her as soon as he had made enough money. In this he was disappointed, as she was sold and he could not find her. Years passed, and one day, while he was standing on the river bank at Portland, he saw a colored man ride his mare on the ferry boat. He recognized her at sight, and hurrying down to the boat, walked up to the colored man, who was astride of her, and said, "Sir, you've got my horse there, sure." "Bless your soul, honey," said the old man. "I've had this mare 9 years and bought her in the bluegrass." "Well, she used to be mine," persisted Mr. Whalen. "That is, I think it's the same mare. If it is, she won't carry double." With this he put his hands on the mare's rump, and she kicked vigorously. "And," continued Mr. Whalen, "this is her name," and he called out behind her Maggie, and in an instant the mare whirled around, almost unseating her rider. Mr. Whalen gave $26 and a side saddle for the mare, and used her for several years in his buggy. Then as she got old, he sent her to the country where he pays $80 a year board for her. For a long time he had difficulty in paying his own board, but the mare was never allowed to suffer, and he intends to keep her in comfort and ease until death ends her life. If Maggie Lucas is alive in June, she will be taken to Lexington to the reunion of Morgan's command. Nearly every soldier knew her and her boy rider well. When she dies, Mr. Whalen intends to have the frame and hide preserved, and will keep them in remembrance of her faithfulness and intelligence. The funeral will be a memorial occasion, and all of Morgan's men will be invited to attend to hear the oration of someone capable of doing justice to so suggestive a theme. This article was originally reported by the Louisville Commercial. This story comes from the great state of Kansas, being reported by the Weekly Kansas Chief of March 15, 1883. Thank you for joining us today. If you want to continue to uncover all of America's lost and forgotten history, then remember before you leave to hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and remember to like and comment below. And we'll see you next time on Americana Archives.